what's up everybody? Welcome back to Unparalleled Universe for another action figure review, and today we're taking a look at the brand new Action Force Bone Collector by ValaVerse. And we're also going to be taking a look at this Action Force weapons pack. Looks like we get a couple of additional guns here for our Action Force figures, so that's always awesome. But let's go ahead and start this off by taking a very quick look at the box. Through the window, you are able to see Bone Collector himself. Right here, it does say Action Force. Down here, it says Bone Collector, and then we have the ValaVerse logo on the side. Over here, it does say Action Force. And then on the back of the box, we get a biography about the character, and then we also get a look at the other characters that came out in this set. And then over here we get some really dope looking artwork. And that's about it for the packaging. It's collector friendly and all that good stuff. But enough about the box. Let's go ahead and open this up and take a look at Bone Collector. And so here we have Bone Collector right out of the box. And this is a figure that kind of caught me by surprise. Because at this point in time, I've reviewed like 3 of the Action Force figures. And I know what I'm getting into. And when I saw this guy, I was like, okay, he's basically just a repaint of the Condor and Steel Brigade bodies, right? So he's basically a kit bash of similar parts used to make those figures. And for that reason, I was like, okay, I know what to expect. The surprise factor's already gone because I already experienced that with the other 2 figures. So I wasn't expecting to be impressed with this figure. But when I took him out of the box, I was surprised by the way they mixed and matched parts, you know? So like, the body is basically the same as it is on the other 2 figures, but then on the arms, they use the Steel Brigade figure's arms, but Condor's elbows, which kind of makes things feel a little bit different. And then he has Condor's upper legs, and then he has new boots. So they did a good job of mixing up parts from the other figures, or mixing up existing parts and then adding unique things. And as a result, the figure feels very different from these other 2 figures, which are constructed in a very similar way with similar parts. So I think they did a good job at making these figures feel very different from each other, even though they share a lot of parts. So I was very surprised by how much I was enjoying this figure. Another big like fun factor aspect with this guy is the skull mask. Like I was having a blast taking pictures of that. And that's kind of rare for me. So anytime I have fun taking pictures of a figure, I'm instantly kind of like, I like it a lot more than I would have if I was having a hard time taking pictures. So with him, I took a bunch of pictures that, you know, I had fun taking, and a lot of it had to do with the skull mask. It just looks so cool and unique and just so badass. And also it kind of fixes one of the problems that I feel that the Action Force figures have at this point, and that would be their head sculpts. I think so far they've been okay, but you know, they have some work to do to make them look a little bit better. But in Bone Collector's case, I don't even have to worry about it because I just keep this bone mask on at all times. So yeah, I was surprised by how much fun I was having with this guy right out of the box, given that I already knew what to expect from him because of the other ones. But yeah, let's go ahead and get in close and take a look at the details on him, because even though he has a bunch of similar parts, he does have some new overlays and things like that. And I think his vests and holsters look really cool. So let's go ahead and check them out. Starting off at the head and the mask, which is definitely my favorite part about this figure. I think this mask is just so cool. It gives him a very unique and scary look, so I think it's badass. But I do like the bone texture they gave to it. I like the long fangs. I like the subtle wash that's in there to bring out some of the details. I think it's a very, very cool accessory. And it is removable, so you could take it off and then you could get a look at his face. His face it's okay. Like, it's better than Condor's face sculpt, I would say. But I think that ValaVerse still has a little bit of work to do when it comes to their face sculpts. But I mean, this one's pretty damn good, actually. I don't know. This one's good. It just kind of has a little bit of a strange look, like almost like a waxy look or something, I guess you could say. I don't know. I'm not too sure. Something about it looks a little off, but I will say this is probably one of the better head sculpts out of the whole line so far. So good stuff, but it doesn't even matter because I'm keeping this skull mask on. This right here is awesome. Look at that, so dope. And you can put the skull mask on other characters in the line too. So that's kind of cool. I was trying to put it on some G.I. Joe figures. I tried to put it on Zartan, and it was able to fit, but it was a super tight squeeze, so I don't want to put it on there again. But yeah, this is a very cool accessory. And then moving down into the rest of the body, check out this vest. I think this is awesome. I like how he has the ammunition right here across the chest. I like how he has the armor plates. Got the brown in there. We've got the metallic. color for the plates themselves. And it does have a knife sheath. Sheath. But yeah, this is a cool looking machete type knife. We have some armor here on the back. Yeah, this vest is really cool. And then moving down into the legs here, this gun holster is different from the holsters on the other two figures, so that's cool, that's new. I like how it has that metallic plate back there, and then the holster for the gun itself. The gun fits in there with no problem. You take it right out, and when it's in there, you don't have to worry about it falling out when you don't want it to. So good stuff. And then on this side, he has some like pouches to hold on to the magazines that he has. And then for the pants, we have a very cool like camouflage type of pattern on there. And then the boots look good, so they're very well sculpted. Not a whole lot of paint on the boots, but they still look good. But yeah, I like the way this guy looks, mostly because the vest and the mask. This mask is so badass. So yeah, they did a good job with the character design on this one. And then for accessories, we have a lot of the same stuff that we saw with the other Action Force figures. Starting off with the Action Force stand. This thing is dope and everything. I like the way the figures look on there. And then he does come with several sets of hands. The same ones we already seen. So we got a pair of fists, a pair of trigger finger hands, a pair of gripping hands, and then a set of gun cradling hands. And then he does come with two different guns for himself. He has this rifle. I believe this is the same rifle that we saw with the Steel Brigade figure. And then finally, he does come with the handgun. And I don't know if I've already seen this one before or not. It looks kind of new. But in any case, I like the way that he looks holding it. I like the silver color to it. It looks pretty badass. And then let's go ahead and take a very quick look at the weapons pack alpha. As you can see, this comes with 10 additional guns. And then we have some muzzle flare effects and a bunch of good stuff. And I'm just going to show you these weapons very quickly because a lot of these guns we've already seen with some of the other figures or even with Bone Collector himself. One of the guns here is basically just a repaint of one of the guns that he comes with. So if you have the other ValaVerse figures, then this gun pack is not going to be the most new and exciting thing, but still, it's always good to get some realistic 1/12 scale weapons to use with Action Force, G.I. Joes, Legends, whatever. You know, a lot of the 6-inch companies don't really do realistic weapons, so it's nice to get some realistic guns that are based on actual weapons. But with that said, I'm not really a gun guy, as I've said before, so I don't really know too much about these guns. I don't know the names. Anyways, let's go ahead and start off with this here. This is like a grenade launcher of some type. And we did see this one with the Swarm Trooper, but this is just a different color, so that's cool. And yeah, that does look really good. Next up, we have this guy, which is like a rifle of some sort. And we do have a muzzle flare effect. And there's two different types of muzzle flare effects. There's the ones that have the pegs, and these could go into like a bunch of different weapons, and that is always awesome. And then like for this one here, the muzzle flare actually goes around the barrel. So, you know, you have some different ways to mount the flares onto the actual guns. But yeah, look at that. That looks good. This is another like rifle type gun. And all these have removable magazines too. I think all of them do. That one does. This one does. I don't think this one does. Yeah, no, this one is not removable. But yeah, look at those three type of guns. Very cool. And the material that they use to make these guns does feel a little stiff and rigid, and I do kind of get scared like they could break or something. Somebody did tell me actually their figure fell off the shelf while holding the gun, and the gun broke, like the barrel broke right off. So you need to be very careful with that. But the guns do look very nice. There's not a whole lot of paint work on these guys, but still, I think they look good. Then we have this one here. This also, oh, you know what? I mentioned this gun, this grenade launcher came with the Swarm Trooper, but it didn't. It came with the add-on pack for the Swarm Trooper. And same thing goes for this gun, I think. I can't really remember actually, but I feel like I saw both of these guns when I was looking at the Swarm Trooper. So there we go. But this one's cool. It's like a little machine gun. Very well sculpted. Again, not a whole lot of paint or anything, but it does look good. And let's see what else we got going on. We have this here, which is a repaint of the gun that Bone Collector comes with. And it does have a removable magazine. So that's awesome. And then next up we have this. And this is another one that we saw with the Swarm Trooper. Can't remember if it was with the add-on pack or the figure itself, but Again, we've seen this one before. Yeah, a bunch of people told me in the comment section what this thing was called. I don't remember. Like I said, I'm not a gun guy, and I really don't have a crazy interest in like learning the names of guns, you know, whatever. And one thing I wanted to show you guys real quick. So I have a couple of guns from some other lines here. I have the Uzi that came with Punisher, and I wanted to see if the muzzle flare can actually go on there. Ooh, the barrel's a little thick. Oh, but you can make it work. Look at that. Bam, there we go. Nice. And this is the flare effect that goes over the barrel. So it's not, you know, it might come off if you hit it or something, but if you need to stick it on there for a quick picture, you could definitely make that happen. Here's the Uzi from Snake Eyes. Oh, that goes right in. Oh, actually, it's too big. But again, if you want to stick maybe some blue sticky stuff on the inside there, you can make that work. And then we have Snake Eyes silencer, and there's a small hole in the barrel, but I don't think it's deep enough to stick the muzzle flare in there. No, it's not. But if you want to drill that out, and then maybe you could stick this in there, that might work. Anyways, I was digging through some guns, and I was like, oh yeah, we actually do have a couple of realistic type weapons from Hasbro. One from Punisher here, and then they finally started to do it with G.I. Joe. I think the first one I remember where they actually gave them realistic looking guns was the Snake Eyes that came with Timber. So that's nice. And then back to the weapons pack here. It does come with a couple of handguns. Here's the first one. And he's holding the other one. There we go. And this one we saw with Condor, and this one is the same sculpt as the gun that Bone Collector comes with. And then, last but not least, we have, I believe, this is an AK-47, right? Let me know. I'm pretty sure that's an AK-47. And this is awesome too because it also has a removable magazine. And does this one need the? It needs the muzzle flare effect with the peg. Boom! There we go. That's awesome. I would like to have a couple more of these. But yeah, this is probably my favorite out of the pack, and not just because it's the one I know is new or the one I haven't seen before. I just that this gun is the most recognizable to me. Like I said, you know, these guns seem very specific and realistic, and I'm sure like people that are into guns are gonna go crazy over these ones. But for me, who doesn't know too much, and you know, like an AK-47 is a very common gun. We see it in movies, we see it in video games, and you know, it's kind of basic knowledge when it comes to guns. So when I saw this one, I was like, oh, okay, it looks like an AK-47, right? Maybe that's what it is. So close enough for me, but I like that. So even though not all these guns are new, it's still cool to be able to get like packs of just weapons and add-ons and stuff like that. So I do think this is cool. And then down here we got a bunch of other additional magazines. It comes with hella magazines. I don't even know what I'm going to do all these, but you could definitely use these for like pictures of, you know, if you want to have your characters like in their little you know, their storage locker with all their guns and stuff, and then they got like magazines everywhere or something. You could do something cool like that with Punisher or a character like that. But yeah, the weapons alpha pack is pretty cool. I do have one more weapons pack to look at that I'll look at another review, and it has a shotgun in there, so I'm excited about that. But anyways, yeah, this is a cool add-on for Action Force figures. And then for some very quick size comparisons, here we have them alongside the Action Force Steel Brigade Soldier and the Action Force Condor. And just because I think that he would get along with them, here we have him alongside the G.I. Joe Classified Zartan and G.I. Joe Classified Major Blood. And man, look at that. The three of them look awesome together. Here we have them alongside some more bad guys. On the left, we have the G.I. Joe Classified Firefly, and on the right, we have the G.I. Joe Classified Cobra Trooper. And of course, we got to get him in here with some good guys. So here we have him alongside the G.I. Joe Classified Snake Eyes and the G.I. Joe Classified Flint. And I've got to say, out of all the Action Force figures that I've looked at so far, I think that Bone Collector is the one that does the best job of fitting in with the G.I. Joe figures. He fits in seamlessly with the villains. He looks like he could be a part of their team, man. He looks like he could straight up be like an enforcer for Cobra or something, or like a mercenary. He just looks like a bad guy that fits in good with like Zartan and Major Blood and Firefly and all those types of guys. And he also looks good with the heroes, so you can match him up with the G.I. Joe heroes, have him fight them. I think out of all the Action Force figures, he does the best job of being compatible with G.I. Joes. Just something about the look just works really well with those figures, so I'm happy to see that. And next up, we have him alongside the Jazzwares Fortnite Havoc and the Jazzwares Fortnite Enforcer. And to have him in here with some random 6-inch stuff, here we have him alongside the Power Rangers Lightning Collection Red Ranger and the Star Wars Black Series Imperial Trooper. Next up, we have him alongside the Marvel Legends Legendary Riders Punisher and the G.I. Joe Classified Battle Android Trooper. And I kind of feel like Bone Collector can be some kind of warped version of Punisher. It would have been cool if he had some kind of skull like on his chest, you know, but as soon as I see somebody with a skull, I automatically think Frank Castle. So I don't know. These guys look like they could, maybe you could have some type of fun like that, making him like an alternate version of Punisher or something. And then last but not least, here we have him alongside the Marvel Legends Bucky Cap and Marvel Legends Pizza Spider-Man. And obviously the articulation on him is exactly the same as the other figures, but let me go ahead and just run through it very quickly. First off, he does have a ball hinge at the head, so you are able to get him to look up to right there. He could look down to right there. He can move his head side to side. And then for the torso, he does have a diaphragm cut and then a ball joint at the waist. And with the vest on, you get some pretty decent movement actually, considering that he has a big, huge vest covering his whole torso. You still get some pretty good range out of it, going forward and back. But if you move it around, if you get too crazy when you're moving it around, it's likely to become unhinged on the side here. And then it's super hard to get the pegs back into the peg holes. He definitely has that problem. But yeah, just keeping the vest on, you get some pretty good range out of that torso. And then obviously when you take the vest off, you get more range. But then moving on to the arms, he does have that awesome butterfly joint. So you could get him into these fighting poses. Get him to look like he's cocking his arm back to punch somebody. And then he also has a ball joint here, so you could get his arm to go all the way around. You could bring his arms up to about right there. And they come up a pretty good amount. And then we have upper bicep swivel. Double jointed knees, bam. They get a nice bend. There we go. We have a swivel here at the wrist and a hinge. I'm trying to speed through this since most people, I think at this point, already know what's up with the articulation. These guys have very good articulation, so I'm happy with it, and they're fun to play around with. But let's check out the legs. He does have a drop-down hip, just like all the other ones, and you could drop it way down and bring his leg way up. Damn, bam! And then you could bring his leg up to the side to about right there. But yeah, look at the range on these things, man. Awesome stuff. Then he does have upper thigh swivel, double jointed knee, bam, which is nice. Boot swivel, rocking ankles. They go forward to right there and up to right there. So, like I said, exact same articulation as the other ones, but still a whole lot of fun to play with and definitely easy to get into dynamic poses. So, even with the vest, I feel like the posability is still pretty enjoyable with this guy. Alright, so overall, at the end of the day, when the smoke clears, the dust settles, and it's all said and done, just like the other Action Force figures, I think this guy is awesome. He's a whole bunch of fun to play with, he's got some good articulation, he's got some cool accessories, and he looks badass. In fact, I would say that he's one of my favorite looking Action Force figures. I just think that his look has a lot of personality. Something like Condor and the Steel Brigade figure, they kind of feel like generic military guys, and that's cool and everything, but the Bone Collector feels like its own character, and I think that's awesome. And one thing that's really cool about seeing the three of these guys together is that it really shows how good they're doing at mixing up parts and making things feel fresh and new. You know, like any action figure company is going to come to a point where they're reusing parts and things like that, some more than others. And in this case, they're reusing a lot of parts, but I think they're doing a really good job of mixing little things up here and there to make things feel fresh. Like, I thought it was pretty clever to use the Steel Brigade's arms on Bone Collector, but then put on, Condor's elbows. You know, just to give him like the regular looking elbows as opposed to like the armored elbows. Like, little things like that can really make the figures feel different and new and unique. So I think that's awesome. And when you put all three of them together, like, they don't look like the same figure. If you get in close and start inspecting things, then obviously you're going to find parts that are shared. But just looking at them like this, they all feel different and unique. And like I said, the Bone Collector just has the most personality out of these three figures. I don't know if I like him more than the Swarm Trooper, but I had way more fun taking pictures of him. For whatever reason, I just enjoyed taking pictures of him. I think the skull mask is like a really fun accessory. It makes him look like a unique character, and the skull was a lot of fun to take pictures of. So, you know, I'm always going to kind of have a special place in my heart with this guy when it comes to the Action Force stuff, because the fact that he was fun to photograph because of that skull. But yeah, one problem I do have with this figure isn't really a problem that's unique to Bone Collector. It's a problem with pretty much all the Action Force figures that have the vests on. I think the vests are pretty cool. They look good, and you could still pose around the figures pretty well when they're wearing the vests. But if you want to take the vest off and experience the full range of motion with the articulation, that's possible, but it's really hard to get the vest back on. It was difficult on the other figures, but I think it's even more difficult on him. It's really hard to peg the pegs into the peg holes on the vest. Like, it's almost impossible, man. So that's very frustrating. But yeah, so they really need to work on the vest too. That's really the only gripe I have with this guy. But yeah, man, it's a really good figure. And the Alpha gun pack, the weapons pack, is cool too. It's nice to get extra weapons and that type of thing, but you know, it doesn't feel as exciting once you've opened up a couple of figures, because the guns do feel very similar. But it is cool to have this as an option, so you could buy some realistic weaponry for your 6-inch figures. So, you know, there's that. But yeah, I think he's a really cool figure, and once again, so far I think that ValaVerse is doing a great job with Action Force. And with that, I think that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And also be sure to hit the bell notification so you know every time that I upload a video or anytime that I'm live. If you're not aware, I do go live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. and every Friday at 7 p.m. So come through. Let's talk about toys and get weird. Thank you very much. Peace.